Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
This is Werewolf This is Werewolf the Podcast, the serial killer drama. Yeah, I got it right almost. But we are on episode 187, and we are now at the game show where the Gormant and Gabriel, the archangel Gabriel, are going to fight it out. We don't know why yet, but they're fighting it out. We're going to find out what happens. As always, please follow us on the platform that you're listening to us to. If you want to rate us, that would be brilliant. It really, really helps us. And there's loads of links and stuff down in the description-y bit for you to join us on Facebook and Instagram and all those different things. Both myself and Greg are writers of this thing, and we write other books as well. So there are books down there for you to add to your collection if you really want to, if you like this nonsense. If you don't like this nonsense, fair enough. Well, you've listened to quite a bit, so... Anyway, thanks for listening, and for those special people, those OGs that know you're out there, those lunatics, we gotta say, we love you. Bye!
The God-given Grand Archangel Gabriel gave the Gormant a gigantic... Goodness, give me grace. Whoa.
Satan stopped and locked eyes with one of the poor writers of this week's episode. This was impressive in itself, as he was thousands of miles away and a few days back in time. The joys of being such a powerful, beautiful being, perhaps? She stared into those prose-ridden, myopic, bespectacled eyes that had recently seen so much screen time that they looked like two badly made coddled eggs. And if you don't know what coddled eggs are, then, Google it or whatever. Other search engines are available. They don't look yummy, but for some strange reason, they are. My mother made mine with a dash of vinegar, bit of salt and a nice slice of toast. Yummy.
Get on with it.
Yeah, sorry about that, as you were. Blearily, through coffee-fueled thoughts, literally wondering what had just happened, the devilishly handsome writer...
Really?
Okay, have it your way. The writer smiled back at the devil. He knew that good writers could make you feel that the characters could leave the page and become real, but this very handsome and good-looking...
Pardon me, what?
Okay. This little chubby ginger bloke now hoped he was not that good a writer after all. But he gulped nonetheless. That breakdown was finally here, and he would welcome it, actually, with open arms. It was all too much. A dive into insanity would do him good. Hello, cruel world. Be nice to get out, actually.
If you keep giving me all this alliteration, you'll be on my naughty list this year. And once on it, you don't come off it. You'll be working for the Sun newspaper by the end of the day.
3/4 of the way through the word she, the writer stops his tremulous typing and nods before we all return to the story and continue with this farce. A farce that's now going to be written with much more technical care.
Gabriel had fallen from the sky, arm extended, like a golden gladiator. Watch it!
He crashed a fist into Noel's precious chin. The two of them smashed into the soundstage, which exploded, sending trashed fragments of body-smashing debris into the things living and dead surrounding the clash. It didn't stop there, though. They'd created a gigantic crater as the two of them continued with the momentum of Gabe's strike deep into the ground. The rock around the lip of the crater glowed from the pressure and force of the angry angel's landing. How much power must have gone into that punch? Much screaming and panic ensued from the audience as they tried to escape the situation of, well, finding out if they could die or not die. Maybe Noel's next game show right there. Who knows? Die or not die. In the words of the Dalai Lama, who cares? He must have said that at some point, surely. He must have. Contemplative sod can't be positive all the time, can he?
Lucifer. I turned to Bozzy, who was looking as flummoxed as a pink neon robe could look. I was proud for a moment of my ability to read non-body language precisely. A few million years of hanging around bad hooded figures and weirdly shaped demons had allowed me to get good at this kind of thing. Bozzy's hood turned towards me for a minute, and the robe shrugged its invisible shoulders. I clicked my fingers and stopped time for all else but me and him. You do realise that this is your realm, and you are in control here, do you not? I shouted at him. I'm sure he is a him, but we never exchange pronouns. Mine are yes and no. You might argue that they're not pronouns. You might argue, but you would be wrong and tortured for the whole of eternity. Bozzy was still looking at the crater in the middle of the floor, from which silence and stillness poured. I know. How can silence and stillness pour out when time has been stopped? Well, you see, me young clever whippersnapper, time was always going for me.
Do you think have they done each other in then?
He asked me. No, I think they're going to come out of there in a furious mood once I get time going again. Now, we may not be able to stop them fighting, but we can at least decide on how it will be done, I told the flashing genie. I noticed he did this when distressed. Maybe a tell which in future could earn me some wishes at the blackjack table. What was that, listener? What did you ask? No, not that kind of flashing. Where is your mind? In the gutter? I see that yours is, Michelle Gleary from Hammersmith. A few too many, eh? Bad girl. He wasn't trying to show me his, their bits. He was invisible, so it would be a waste of time. In fact, he could flash in that way if he wanted, and no one could possibly complain. I think I could complain, that is. I could probably tell what he was flashing from his non-body language that I now would not want to read. Where was I? He was flashing like a pink neon light on and off. Ain't torturing all these folk gradely, Albert. The genie turned to me and smiled before I got to the end of my thoughts. I know he's invisible and everything, but I could tell he was smiling, even if I couldn't see that he was smiling at me. Weird, I know, but think about it. You are currently listening to me talking as the devil, Lord of Flies, Beelzebub, and you can accept that. So why not accept that I can see an invisible smile when I don't see it?
Ahem.
Then everything happened quickly. I'll hand it back to the genie for the next paragraph of profound prose and proposed ponders on the premise. Excuse me a moment. I need to sort this alliteration-spewing idiot out. I warned you about that alliteration. Take that, you bloody irritating tattle writer. It's the Sun newspaper for you. You'll be interviewing and writing pieces on Doris from Stockport's world record-breaking fat cat, you bastard.
Bosworth. Well, that were an interesting happening, were it not? Flaming Angel had fallen from the heavens and landed a punch directly on Noel Edmonds' jaw. He was properly gobsmacked. Get it? Get it? I mean, properly gobsmacked, confused and exasperated all at the same time. That's a lot to feel at the same time. Devil had called everything to order by stopping time. Me and her had now become only things that could move and stuff in weird tableau of terrified creatures and demons trying to get themselves away from fight that was about to kick off. This would be a world beater.
You need to take control, Bozzy.
Lucy told me. I don't want to, I told her. The tone in my voice was cowardly, to say at least. Her reaction made me really think about myself hard. She just threw her hands to the sky before turning back to a fat little ginger chap in a coffee-stained T-shirt and grubby Y-front underpants who, for some reason, had a keyboard in his left hand, a computer mouse in his right, and a look on his face that was both confused and right frightened. She was right, you know. She was bloody right. What was I, a genie or a djinn? Well, it's both, and this was my place, my plane, so it was mine, and mine to do what I want with because it was mine. Yeah. I changed thought space. It was no longer Albert Hall, it was Town Hall in Accrington in 1987, but just on a gigantic scale. It was perfect and fully kitted out with audience that went with it. Good, solid, working-class folk. Chaps with flat caps, a favourite whittling stick, whippet, and a brusque attitude to life. The kind of man that calls a spade, and we're not talking about them politically correct types in talking about a spade. No, we're not. You were wrong. They'd never heard of being woke. To them, you have to be woke at 3:30am before you walk 43 miles through bitter, blinding snow in nought but a sack for warmth in order to work down pit for 72-hour shift in pitch black and then pay the owner off the mine for opportunity to develop black lung. God bless the governors. With the real men were harassed mums with snot-nosed kids that held candy floss and sugar rush gaze to their eyes. These were days when your family paid for a complete set of dentures at the age of 21, whether you needed them or not. Sugar was not a sin, it was a treat, and you took pride in little tykes having rotten teeth. Showed you could afford the sweet stuff. As always, at front were the real hardcore thugs of the 80s wrestling world, evil and dark, but just dark to the core, full of hate and lust for violence. You could smell the malevolence and the mint imperials waft off them. They would be screaming and baying for blood and broken bones. They wanted death at the very least. They would. Boo! The bad guys and good guys and shout helpful advice like, kick him in the goalies! Of course, these eight fell beings were little old ladies, the god-awful granny pack. Oh, they were so vicious in this scenario. At home, they were the sweetest little old women you could ever imagine, but at events like these, they wanted death and destruction. These were those evil women who watched sport for fight and would barrack players if they were too soft and Nelly to do so. Hit him out, Stephen! At the centre of it all was a wrestling ring. It was a lot more modern than things from 1987, but you have to consider all of these things when you put on a spectacle such as this one, had in mind. I'd funk away the creator, and there was no sign of our miscreants, fighters, yet. It were time for me to roll up my sleeves and take control of this nonsense. This was my world, and this was my bloody show.
Lucifer. Ah, good old Bosworth. So straightforward and easy to press to my wants. He was getting the idea that I'd helped worm into his mind. This was his realm. It did what he wanted, and whatever that was, I guessed it would be entertaining. I briefly took a compact mirror from my purse and fixed my perfect makeup before magicking myself an oversized pink couch at the ringside. My demon secretary, for Giselle Anouar Trudeau, was already sitting on the sofa in her cat form. On a small table next to the couch was an ice bucket with decent vintage champagne and a super stupid large packet of popcorn. You know the size. I love you Americans for your portion control.
For only 10 extra cents, you can have the monstrously massive popcorn and 2 people to help you carry it to your extra large chair.
Ah, all that extra corn syrup on there. You guys were better at food-based seduction than even I was. And what would it lead to? Obesity? Diabetes? Misery? And early death? Perfect. As I put away my compact, I checked the bag for the dice of fate. I had a feeling that they may be required today. Sitting down, I smoothed out the satin red dress and sat back to watch. What's going on? Where's the Prof and the Wolf? Asked the little cat. They had been lost from my thoughts for a moment. I was so excited to see what was going to happen between Gormant and Gabe. I then noticed the 2 miscreants were confused but sat together in front of microphones at a decorating table opposite ringside. They would be fighting, but that would wait until I started time once more.
Bosworth. So no, after setting scenery and stuff, it was time to bring in our two combatives. I had to shrink them quite a bit to fit in place, but they'd be okay. At the moment, it seemed that Gormant, our very old Noel Edmonds, would have to, have the reach and weight advantage on Gabriel. Although if angels can fit on pinheads and all that bollocks, who knows how little they weigh and how big they are, eh? I pointed to the red corner and Gabriel flashed his golden presence into it. He was wearing only a pair of golden budgie smugglers. His body was that of a near god, yeah. Muscles fought to get behind other muscles, and he was perfectly proportional. I mean, he was perfect in his form. He was sickeningly well built. He was angelic. Yuck. Perfection is so appealing, but unappealing, but appreciated at times. I turned to the blue corner ring and Gormant flashed into beat. He was in his monster form. His skin was black as ash and he had flickering flames on it. He was muscular but in different way to Angel. His body looked as though it were like built from hard work and rocks. Big bouldery rocks. It looked a little strange being human-sized, I got to admit. His was not the terrifying giant beast he'd been, but a terrifying human-sized beast. His wings were folded tight on his back and he wore a red sparkly wrestling one piece that must have been made out of asbestos and red hot iron sequin sparkles. He looked frightening in many ways. Sequins on a bloke for a working class Yorkshireman were properly frightening. A man might have those thoughts again, that one about our Kevin's pal. That couldn't be happening. They were both frozen. Gabe's head cornerman was the diminutive magic magician Paul Daniels. League cornerman at Fort Gormant was the maudlin street magician David Blaine. The cornermen were backed by demons ready with water. In case of the angel, I suppose, obviously it were holy water. I looked closer at Gormant's corner. They seemed to have a bucket of, it looked like burning coal from here, Final thing for me to do was to turn myself into perfect referee for this match. I smiled and thought about Ideal Man from 80s. I turned myself into a small fat man with a lovely comb over a balding pate. I had the classic black and white striped polo shirt on and looked as though I smoked 80 cigarettes a day, drank 15 pints of stout for breakfast, and that I could have either a stroke or a heart attack or both any second. My face had that proper alcoholic pallor. It took me some bloody effort, that, but I was happy with the outcome. I thought about how to make it look proper. I'd imagined Spam. Spam, the pork-based product, and its structure and colour. The Spam skin worked well for the look I wanted. Okay, I think that I'm ready for action. I turned to Fight Devil. That sounds quite terrifying, huh? Turning to Fight Devil, but to be honest, she was not that terrifying. She were proper stunning, actually. She were sitting on a gigantic pink sofa with a little black cat sitting in her lap. I'm sure it must be purring. Who wouldn't be purring there? Only the devil or a mad person would have a cat in a lap wearing satin. See, I noticed these things. Satan in red satin. Gorgeous. The right song there. She met me eyes and those amber irised orbs flashed. I nodded and she nodded back to me. She raised her hand and clicked those perfect fingers. The two combatives immediately sprang to life. Rest at all was still silent and frozen, which I got to admit I was most thankful for. They both looked around the room, an element of confusion on their faces, and it took some time for them to work out where and when they were. They then saw each other across canvas-floored chasm, and again I thought that time had frozen, but that weren't the case. It was a moment in which to generate a will to kill. I stepped in between the two before they clashed in centre a ring. As they charged, I placed a gentle hand on their chests and gently held them apart gently as they tried to gently get at one another. Well, the gently get at one another was wrong, they were trying to kill each other. This was my realm, and I was in control. Now, gentlemen, I told the two snorting and braying beasts. Even Gabriel's profoundly beautiful face was full of bestial fury at this point. Now, gentlemen, please listen to rules of engagement. They fought hard against me, but I had them in my power. It felt a little powerful to have all this power over these two powerful creatures. Nietzsche said we all seek power. I felt from this that, well, he were right, especially for me. Now, This is going to be a good, clean contest. There will be 3 rounds of 5 minutes. The ways to win are straightforward and easy to understand. 3 falls, that's a 3-second pin, shoulders flat to the floor, a submission, a doctor's stoppage, or disqualification, I continued. No magic can be used in arena except by me, and there will be no low blows. I pointed out the men's groinal regions for some reason, just in case they didn't know that was the region. There's no eye gouges, fish hooks, or biting. There's no hair pulling, or tell you what, Gabriel, there's no tickling either, I told him, pointing at each of them and giving him an actual warning. Do you understand? I asked the Gormant. He nodded. Do you understand? I asked Gabriel, and he nodded. When I raise my hand, we fight, I told him, just leaving a hand between them and looking at Lucy to start the time. Somehow a little tiny silver bell was on her table. She smiled and nodded. I smiled, nodded, and raised my hand as Satan stood before a crowd. Silence. And then she rang the tiny little bell that sounded like Big Ben's big brother and retook her seat as crowd went flipping crazy. Lovely Debby McGee had done her circuit at ring to wolf whistles from the crowd. Her smile was mesmerising, but a reminder of who she really was betrayed. It betrayed itself as every now and again that like thin fork-like reptile tongue flashed around her lips.
The Professor and
Will.
Well, the crowd is going absolutely mental as these 2 giants of the ethereal world meet in this clash of the tiny titans in this case. Ooh, ouch! That had to hurt. Right on the raising of the hand, Gabriel kicked the Gormant straight in the gorbles, and he sinks unsurprisingly to the floor. The expression on his face, one of a man who thought he was about to bite down on a summer strawberry, but it turned out to be an unripened autumn lemon. Yucca-doodle-doo. I feel for the sod.
Ouch! That will take some effort to swallow back down below.
The referee's not happy, and he's taken gorgeous Gabriel back to his corner for a right good telling off. That'll teach him, eh? No, probably not, actually.
Well, Professor, that was instantly a disgraceful show from the graceful one. Who knew that he would have that in him? The Gormant is still down on his knees, dry heaving. Oof, he's probably praying to someone that he still has his goodies in him. Hey, Simon.
Gabriel's looking across the ring at the downed monster. He smiles as the ref walks back to check on the Gormant, who's still struggling with his precious parts. That was a vicious attack. What do you think, Will? A fight ender there? Disqualification?
Well, Simon, good question. I think you could make an argument for that. In fact, I can tell you that the referee is seeming to ask the Gormant if that is what he wants.
Oh, wait a minute. What's that Paul Daniels is passing to the archangel Gabriel?
Oh, no. Because the ref has got his back turned. Oh, my God. He can't see the ring stool is being passed up to Gabriel. Oh, no. He's turned his back to the ref and to the Gormant, somehow hiding the stool behind the back of his wings. It's clever, it's cunning.
The crowd are yelling for the ref to notice, but he's all tied up, worrying about the state of the Gormant, who's slowly getting up from his knees despite the obvious agony he's feeling from his battered cods. He's a tough one, though, and it seems he's going to continue with the fight. The crowd are going wild. What a brave and yet possibly foolish creature Noel Edmonds is.
He's half crawling, oh, bless him, half walking to his corner. The ref raises a yellow card and shows it to Gabriel. Good. Yeah, good crowd, you boo him.
3 of those cards and this fight is over. I hope he gets the seriousness of his actions.
He's just been past the stool, Simon.
Yes, good point. It seems he does not understand the seriousness of his actions.
The poor Gormant is kneeling in his corner now, and David Blaine is out with the non-magic sponge. If you have children in the crowd or watching at this point, you might want to cover their eyes. That doesn't look right. It looks very wrong. It's making even me feel uncomfortable, and I'm a wolf of the world.
But thankfully, he's up and turning to face Gabriel, the cheating angel, once again. The referee walks back to the centre of the ring to restart the match. Ding goes Satan's bell, and off we go.
Gabriel walks out to the centre of the cage, holding out his right hand to shake with his opponent. No, don't take it. Please don't take it. He's holding the stool in his left hand behind his back. What is he thinking, Simon?
Well, I don't know, Will, but I don't think his thoughts are good or full of grace at this moment. I think he's going to do something utterly disgraceful here.
The crowd is going wild, trying to tell the Gormant about the stool. He stops and raises his right hand to his bull-like ear, trying to pick out the words from the crowd. I don't think he can hear what they're saying. He seems confused.
Oh, by goodness and grace, the Gormant doesn't realise he's going to reach... Oh, no! He's reaching to shake the offered hand!
Oh, hell's bells! That was a ringer of a blow!
A true left-handed sucker punch, I believe there, Will. Or in this case, a left-handed stool, possibly from the very bowels of hell.
Yes, the stool caught Gormy on the right side of the head and has sent him spinning into the ropes. Where's the ref? Where's the bloody ref?
He's in Gabriel's corner. He's tied up in an argument with Paul Daniels. By God, that's clever. The ref's focus is on Paul Daniels, who's arguing for the unfairness of the yellow card.
That's clever work by Gabriel's corner, you've got to admit it. Very unfair, but very clever.
It's blatant cheating that has to be admired here, my friend. It has to be. I did not believe that Gabriel had that much nasty evilness to his nature, but well, I suppose I was wrong.
Did you just call me a friend, Simon?
Yes, I suppose I did, Will, for some unknown reason. But let's not worry about that now. Back to the war in front of us.
The Gormant is hanging from the top rope by his arms. They're just... his arms are just about holding up his sagging body. What's this? What's... Oh, the lovely Debby McGee in her sparkly one-piece is walking to the side of the ring. Why is she doing that? What is the beautiful wife of the mad magician Paul Daniels doing? Let's see. What on the planes is she doing, Simon?
She seems to be signalling Gabriel to give her the stool. This is clever. The ref is still tied up in Gabriel's corner as Paul Daniels remonstrates unendingly with him. She takes the stool and raises it above her head.
Oh my God, that must be a signal to the corner that she has it.
Yes, well spotted and definitely correct. Paul Daniels is raising his hands in a conciliatory manner to the ref and starting to sit back down at the corner. His part in this seems to be done for now.
That was bloody clever, eh,
It
Simon?
certainly was. And as the referee turns back, Gabriel is lifting the Gormant from the ropes above his head. Oh, is he going to...
Yes, that's a pile driver takedown on the bovine creature's skull. Ooh, the crowd are booing the Gabriel.
Look at his disgrace. He's wasting time shouting back at the crowd. The grannies are throwing items at Gabriel. Mostly boiled sweets and darning mushrooms, but that was definitely a half brick that just bounced off his skull.
That bonk on the bonce has reminded him that he's forgotten about the Gormant trying to crawl to his corner.
And just in the nick of time, maybe, he spots the crippled creature and covers him for the pin.
1, 2, but the Gormant kicks out and escapes. How is he still in this? And ding goes the bell for the end of round 1.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.